Hi, I'm Nathan Hutchin, owner of Reigate Garage in Reigate. I specialise in servicing, MOTs and general repairs. And today I'm going to be showing you some different general maintenance and some driving skills. In this video I'll be showing you how to change front brake pads. Now to start with, you need to jack up the vehicle somehow, either lift like this or say just a small jack just to get the wheel off the ground. First thing first, we need to undo the wheel nuts. I've got me a breaker bar and a 90mm socket, which will take these off reasonably easy, like so. Just remove each wheel nut and keeping them safe. Once you've removed the wheel nuts, remove the wheel. Now here you have your brake caliper. It has a spring on the front and a couple of bolts in the back. Just one up here and one up here. They have caps on, so I'm going to remove those first. You get your Allen key socket on the back of this one. Some of them are different, some of them have bolts, just sort of normal headed bolts. But this one's an Allen key. You put it in the back and undo the bolt at the bottom. There's one. There's two. This one has an anti-rattle spring on the front, which is this spring here. Just have to remove that with a screwdriver. That's the anti-rattle spring, just remove that. And then remove the caliper just by getting a screwdriver and just slowly moving it outwards. There we are. There's your pads. Just pull them out. This one's fixed into the piston, so you just have to pull it forward where the clip is. Next step would be to push the piston back for the new pads for when they're in. I've got me a handy tool, but you can use a pair of sort of swan neck grips if you don't have this particular caliper tool. Just wind it back. A good idea would be to take the brake fluid reservoir cap off, because you'll be pushing fluid back and that'll be going back up into the reservoir. It just sort of stops it from compressing any air inside. Just wind it back slowly. That's all the way back. And remove the tool. The next step would be your brake pad holder here. Just needs to be cleaned up just to ease pad movement when the pads are in there. So just give it a good sort of scrape. Just sort of cleaning any sort of stuff that's laying around. That's the same on the inside as well. Right, now that that's clean, You take your new pads, which this doesn't actually need pads, but we're just going to replace the old ones. But if you were putting new ones on, it'd be exactly the same procedure anyway. You take your pads and use copper grease, just to basically put a bit of grease on just each end of the pad. It just helps with movement as you're pressing your foot on the brake, and just stops any sort of squeak noises that would happen. Now once they're done, you place the pads back in. This particular one has a spring, one doesn't. The one with the spring goes in with the piston. It just pushes in. You bring your caliper back down. Just slide it back in like so. Now with the caliper bolts, you'd usually use sort of torque seal. It's just basically an anti-rattle sort of locking thread that stops anything rattling about, and as you can imagine with brakes it would be quite dangerous for the bolts to rattle out. Just a tiny bit on each one. Just push the bolts in. Now when you're doing them up, it's probably best just to start with a tool as such instead of the ratchet. So you can start doing it in finger tight just to stop any cross threading of the bolts. And you should be able to feel it going nicely. Same with the top one. And do them up nice and tight. That's it. Then put your caps back over and they just push in. And then your retaining spring, your anti-rattle spring. Probably best to get a screwdriver underneath, just to push the last bit past. There she goes. Okay. Once you've done that, just put your wheel back on. Lightly tighten the bolts up with your fingers. Take it down. Pump the brake pedal, because it will need to push the pads into the disc, so it'll feel like there's no pedal just for sort of a few seconds, and it will get hard. Tighten up the wheel, and that's how you change front brake pads.